Welcome to Rooted in Retirement with Zach Gray. Zach is the founder of Rooted Wealth Advisors and is one of the nation's leading financial advisors, helping people answer some of retirement's biggest questions, covering topics like income, taxes, and Social Security.
So this is a place where we have to be really concerned about how much of this money am I going to keep?
Zach is here to make sure you can enjoy the retirement you deserve. This is Rooted in Retirement with Zach Gray.
It's a saying we're all familiar with. The only thing that stays the same is change. So how can you keep life's curveballs from derailing your retirement? That is our topic today. Welcome to Rooted in Retirement. I'm Kelly Dame. Today joining me, Zach Gray, founder of Rooted Wealth Advisors. Zach, great as always to be with you today.
I'm always excited to be here with you.
Now, when you start to think about 20, 30 years in retirement and all of the things that can happen over that time span, it starts to sound and feel almost impossible.
It can be overwhelming, there's no doubt about it. But there's a goofy saying, how do you eat an elephant? Do you happen to know the answer?
I have never heard this before. I don't know.
I've never ate any elephants either, but it would be one bite at a time. So let's break it down into some manageable pieces, and let's really kind of start to put a plan together that, once again, is going to be easy to digest, no pun intended. So all that said is I would just be thinking long and hard about, okay, let's take some steps along the way. Let's make sure that we put all those pieces together, and hopefully we can come out with a comprehensive plan that is easy to understand and give some confidence to those that are maybe nearing retirement or in their retirement years. Of course, that's our goal.
Let's be clear, I don't want to eat any elephants, but I see where you're going there. Let's talk about more of what goes into this type of planning.
Well, I think that there's really kind of these 5 worlds, as we call it, and this isn't just something that is only at Rooted Wealth Advisors or only our ideology. This is really what a CFP standard is based around. It's this idea of income. I mean, without income, you don't have much of a retirement, Kelly. So that is really the outcome that we're after, is to get those income dollars. Many times that income is going to come from your investment picture. So I think that is extremely important for us to be thinking about, okay, what are we going to pull out to help pay the bills? What type of money? What type of risk are we taking with those investments? All those things. Taxes is really the third pillar for us. We talk a lot about that sometimes here on Rooted in Retirement to try to maximize the dollars that you've worked so hard for. Then looking at healthcare. And not just only the day-to-day insurance expenses or Medicare supplements. We need to be thinking about long-term care here as well, especially if we're getting into our retirement years. How are we going to pay for that? Because sadly, healthcare cost, it's the number one cost that we're going to have in our retirement. And then lastly, legacy. Now, legacy for us, Kelly, it's not necessarily just leaving money behind to someone, though that is extremely important. We need to be making sure that we're living life on our terms, the way that we want. So really those 5 components, I think, really make something that's very comprehensive, very well-rounded.
And of course, those components can change over time, as again, we're talking about how you navigate those changes in retirement. And when we're talking about 20 to 30 years and all that can happen in between those years, how do you help people prepare?
Well, I think that it's really, once again, making sure that we're putting a plan together that is proper to them and it's unique to them. And I think sometimes it's a little daunting. It can be something that's a little scary to, step into a financial advisor's office. There's a lot of feelings and emotion that goes on there. And I think that is something that is really something we're trying to ease and make sure that you feel comfortable with putting a plan in place, because I think the first step is putting that plan in place. And sometimes the first step is the toughest, to make sure that we're having the conversation, we're making sure to work through some ideas and some strategies that might make more of that hard-earned dollar. So I think, once again, just making sure we have a plan, and a plan that we can go back to, a plan that's really built for, of course, the good times. But what happens when the market gets volatile? What happens, when maybe there's a change to, maybe even a pension? Or what happens if we do have a change to Social Security here, in the next 10 years or so? How are we going to adapt? And that's what I think is important.
Now, you talk about this as one of those 5 big components, taxes. It's a big thing in retirement. So I want to talk for a minute about that tax reduction report and the offer that you've put together.
Yeah, so I think that taxes is something that we need to give a lot of optics to right now, especially before tax code is going to change in just a few short years. And so really, our team has put together a tax reduction report. You're not going to find it anywhere else but at Rooted Wealth Advisors. And it's really unique to your needs, your circumstances, and strategies that might make sense to keep as much of your hard-earned money in your own pocketbook before taxes go up. We'll discuss things like maybe an SRT, like a strategic Roth transfer. We can talk about maybe some outside-the-box thinking when it comes to, once again, putting less money in the IRS's pocketbook and more in yours.
Sounds amazing and really, really helpful. So here is your chance to get your hands on this tax reduction report from Rooted Wealth Advisors. You can call 855-955-6868 to secure yours today. It doesn't matter how much you've saved for retirement. There will be a big piece of the pie that there are a lot of elements are going to take, so you want to make sure that Rooted Wealth Advisors helps make it the smallest slice possible. Remember, there is no cost or obligation. Once more, the number to reach is 855-955-6868. Here's your chance for professional planning, helping keep what you have worked so hard for. Important insights from Zach as always, and of course more to come. It is one thing to try to plan around your own personal circumstances, but geopolitical conflict and policy changes overseas and here at home can also impact your future. Zach helps you navigate those changes coming up next. Rooted Retirement continues right after this.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense in retirement? No one can avoid taxes completely, but with the right strategies in place, you could potentially reduce your taxes in retirement. And reducing your taxes means more of your hard-earned money right back in your pocket. Call now for your free tax reduction report to uncover your future tax savings.
I'm back with Zach Gray, and today we are discussing how good planning can help you stay on track when life throws you a curveball. Zach, it's one thing, of course, have a plan around our own personal situation, our family, but let's talk about those things that are point blank out of our control in retirement.
Yeah, we often say let's control those controllables, but you're right, there's so many things that we can't control. Here's a few that come to mind. How about just the cost of living? Right? I mean, if you think back over the last couple of years here, it's been pretty wild to see what inflation has given us, right? As you just go to the grocery store, Kelly, I was there the other day with my wife, and it wasn't a pleasant experience.
It's not a fun place to be.
No, I couldn't believe it. It was like, boy, the groceries don't keep coming, but the bill seems to get higher and higher. That's something obviously that we need to be thinking about as we do our planning too. And I think that it's important for us to think about the fact that we can't really wrap our arms around that. But at the same point, we need to be balancing the fact that we need to try to plan for that. I think on past that point, how about politics? Elections are always a really interesting time for us, right? To think about what is going to happen there, volatility that might occur, but even like geopolitical events. Think about most recently Israel, Hamas. Russia, Ukraine, still not that far in the rear view, and obviously there's still a lot of conflict there. We can't control those things, but of course they do affect the market. So as you start to think through some of those things, we realize that, hey, we're not in control of all these pieces. Let's make sure that we're building a plan, controlling those controllables. But once again, we can't control things that, well, frankly, just are out of our control.
So as we're talking about inflation and other areas of exposure to too much risk in our portfolio, how do you balance that act of safety and risk in retirement plans?
Well, I think diversification is it's the first word that comes to mind. And I think that diversification can come in a few ways. Number one, how much risk are we taking in our portfolio? It might sound a little, mundane, but I would say that low risk, mid-range risk, even higher risk investments, where does our money sit? Where do we want it to sit? And I think that's really important for us to get a really good handle on, especially with the market seeing some resurgence in 2023 from those lows that we had in 2022. I think now is a really good time as we now move into 2024 and beyond. We need to be thinking about, okay, well, where is my portfolio? Will the market go back down? And if so, when? And we don't have that crystal ball to shake, but I do think it's important to say, if we see this big lift, now there becomes a question mark of saying, well, should we take some of that, Kelly, shift it to something that's a more conservative investment? I think that could make a lot of sense. And even diversification for me in terms of tax classification. You know, we've talked about it, taxable, tax deferred, tax free. Well, can we diversify there too? Because if we can get that portfolio constructed that way, I think we might be better off.
Well, and let's look into that crystal ball, right? And we know that as we talk about taxes, they're likely going up in the next couple of years. So what are some ways that we can start to really take back control in these areas?
Well, I think that one place that we can really take back some control is going to be in our tax reduction report. That report, I think, is something that can really give a lot of value to all of you watching today. And I know we talk about taxes a lot on this show, but I think that this one element gets missed quite a bit. You know, many times we think about, okay, we have this income coming in and we know that we've got enough maybe from pensions or Social Security. Maybe you combine the two. Maybe we know that we're going to draw a little bit of our portfolio down and we're comfortable there. Investments themselves, maybe you already have an advisor and you think to yourself, well, hey, I know that he or she is doing a nice job with that. What I tell you that we find most of the time missing is a way to really maximize that hard-earned money, to really squeeze as much back into your pocketbook as possible. It might be something with our SRT, our strategic Roth transfer, where we can shift some funds on over. It might be something that's even more outside the box. But what I want you to know is that there are ways that you can take some little steps to moving that dial, and we could be talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of your hard-earned money that goes back in your pocketbook. And this is critical because be thinking about maybe you're married and you want to take care of a spouse in the case that, God forbid, something happens. Maybe we're wanting to get some of those dollars onto another generation, kids or grandkids, in the most efficient way. I think that this is a critically important step, and you're really invited to take action today by getting your very own tax reduction report in your own hands. And Kelly, it's something that we're really passionate about. We're really looking forward to trying to, move the needle for folks and keep some more of that hard-earned money in their pocket.
And not to mention, it's just got a lot of value in there. So here is your chance to get your hands on this tax reduction report. It's only from Rooted Wealth Advisors. Call 855-955-6868 to secure yours today. It doesn't matter, we've talked if you've saved $500,000, $2 million, $10 million, maybe even more for retirement. Don't miss this opportunity. Remember, there is no cost or obligation. Call 855-955-6868. Don't hesitate to dial it now. Straight ahead, Zach shares his retirement checklist to help you prepare for life's changes. That's next in Digging Deep. And still to come, Zach answers your most pressing retirement questions. You're watching Rooted in Retirement. We'll be back.
No one can avoid taxes completely, but with the right strategies in place, you could potentially reduce your taxes in retirement. When you take the time to put the right strategies in place, that means more of your hard-earned money stays in your pocket, not Uncle Sam's. Call Rooted Wealth Advisors now for your free tax reduction report and uncover your future tax savings.
Does all the political rhetoric have you confused? Let's cut through the confusion together. In addition to your very own tax reduction report, I want to offer you a resource that helps you plan regardless of who is in the White House now and into the future. As the retirement landscape changes and new tax policies are put in place, let's protect what you've worked so hard for. Call now for your very own tax reduction report, and our team will include this important guide that speaks to you about concerns of political uncertainty now and into the future.
In today's Digging Deep, Zach shares what should go on your retirement checklist. Zach?
Thanks, Kelly. And now we're back with my favorite segment, Digging Deep. So let's dig in. Why do we have some groceries right alongside me? Well, As I think about your retirement checklist, I'm thinking about a recent trip to the grocery store that I had for my wife, Jenna, not too long ago. And she had given me that list of things to make sure that we were checking off as we went along. But you know me, I misplaced it. Don't know where I lost it from the time that I left the house, dropped the kids off at an activity, and ended up at the supermarket. And she had that specific list for a reason, because we had a party that we were planning for our oldest daughter. We needed to make sure that we put everything in the bag that we were after. So as you start to think through the fact of what are you placing in your retirement shopping cart, what are you putting on your retirement checklist, as you will, make sure that you're placing everything accordingly. For me, it was making sure that I picked up all the knickknacks that we needed. Needed paper plates, needed napkins, needed the whole thing outside of just the food, and wouldn't you know it, I'm trying to do it all just from memory. So I'm shooting her a message, trying to get her attention, and of course, no response. So there I am, limited time, trying to figure things out as we go. And I tell you, I think a lot about that correlation to how I felt that day to probably how some people feel as they get planning for retirement. I'll tell you, I felt a little anxious. I was a little worried that I was going to forget something for my 8-year-old daughter's party. And I was just sitting there just kind of running through my mind, what did that list look like? How can I make sure that I get the right things? And not only that, she had given me specific instructions. It wasn't just peanut butter, it was a specific type of peanut butter in my little analogy here. For you, it's the same. And I really think about this in kind of what we call these 5 worlds. We have really based our planning around the CFP standard, looking at what are these 5 components that lead to a healthy retirement. So let's take a look at them. Income. Guys, without income, retirement just isn't going to happen. It's not going to go well anyway. You need to make sure you have the money to pay the bills. That could be coming from pensions, Social Security, maybe it's rental income or farm ground income. Heck, maybe it's taking it from number 2, your investments. What do your investments look like? How much risk are you taking with your investment picture? Have you broken it up, diversified it well? And not only diversified it in terms of, say, risk or what it's trying to do for you, but have you diversified it in terms of its tax diversification? That happens to be number 3 on our checklist here. Making sure that we're looking at ways of which we can squeeze as much of that hard-earned money into our own pocketbook. And this is something really special to us. I'm going to get back to that in a moment. Number 4 is healthcare. It does happen to be the number 1 cost that you're going to have in retirement. Sadly, it's not travel. It's not spoiling the grandkids. Yeah, it's healthcare costs. And number 5, it's legacy. Legacy for us isn't necessarily just crossing the T's and dotting the I's for where you want to leave your money behind, though that is extremely, extremely important. This is making sure that you're living life on your own terms, living the retirement that you've always dreamt about. We want to make sure that that legacy is put in place and that it's something you're remembered for. So, as we think about that retirement checklist, as we think about those 5 key components, I would really urge you to be making sure that you're checking each one. Now, I mentioned taxes. We have a special offer for all of you watching today. It's free. There's no obligation. It is in our tax reduction report. We would love to get this in your hands. And it really is as simple as picking up the phone today and giving us a call. 855-955-6868 is the number. When you call in, you're going to speak with one of our fiduciary advisors, likely here in the week following our show. And we are going to step you through our process and show you ways that you might not have thought about. Something like our strategic Roth transfer, our SRT, that you're only going to find at Rooted Wealth Advisors. We can't wait to unpack that and many more strategies to try to protect your hard-earned money. So one last time, that number is 855-955-6868. Kelly, back to you.
Have a question about retirement? Don't go anywhere. Zach has the answers coming up in our Q&A segment. Rooted in Retirement continues right after this.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense in retirement? No one can avoid taxes completely, but with the right strategies in place, you could potentially reduce your taxes in retirement. And reducing your taxes means more of your hard-earned money right back in your pocket. Call now for your free tax reduction report to uncover your future tax savings.
Well, you probably have questions in retirement, and the good news is we got an expert sitting right here. So time to give us all your wisdom.
Let's go.
Okay, so this question comes from Clark. I am 64 years old. My wife and I still have term life insurance. We're wondering if it would be best to find a different type of insurance that could take us into retirement. Could you give us your input?
Well, Clark, I think any insurance product is really, Kelly, a need-based type of product. It doesn't matter if we're talking life insurance, car insurance, it is for a set need. And so, hey, I've got 4 young kids at home. My need is potentially a lot different than Clark's, And so as we think about that, I think it's important to look at the different types of insurance that are out there. At its most base level, we have permanent, we have term insurance. Term insurance, well, it's for that set term, that many amount of years. Permanent insurance can have some different flavors, if you will, right? It can be universal life, whole life, variable life. There's a lot that goes into that. What I would say is this: making sure that we look at what is the need, what are we trying to cover here, because sometimes that need just doesn't exist. If the kids are grown, the house is paid, if we're at the point of retirement, no income is needed that would help and assist to get us to that right size of a nest egg. So maybe we can use something permanent, and I would say that it's worth the discussion. And Clark, I would say that it's important to look at all the different types that are out there. Maybe you even bolt on something like a bit of a long-term care type of rider, if you will. That can be done with some permanent policies as well. I think that can be a good fit moving into retirement. So Kelly, there's a lot to unpack there, but I think it can be a great piece of the puzzle. It's just, let's make sure that it fits the need.
Okay. Here's one from Deb. My husband has several emergency fund bank accounts with more than enough money to cover 6 months of income in the event of an emergency. I'm curious about other options that would earn higher interest for us. Could you give me some examples, please?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to look at here. What does the portfolio look like is really what runs through my mind, Deb. Now, Kelly, I think as we start to think about ways that we can get a little bit better return than just simply a bank account, there's a lot right now. Interest rates have gone up for the last few years now, and so we can even go get guaranteed returns in like a treasury bill, a CD. Some of those numbers are looking pretty darn good in comparison with what maybe our checking or our savings might be giving us. Maybe that is an easy way to say, hey, I'm not taking even any more risk. I'm just leaning into something that can maybe get me 2-3 times maybe more return. That can be something that's worth discussion. I think also, let's make sure that we're not being too conservative. Obviously, we talk a lot on the show about let's make sure that we're income ready, that we're ready to go for retirement. Sometimes that means pulling the reins back, especially compared to someone that's in their 20s or 30s or even 40s. But let's be looking at what does the picture look like? How much money do we need? And let's not be overly conservative because we might be giving up some return there as well.
This one is from Joe. What are the best investments for someone who is 61, healthy, and wanting to retire as soon as possible?
Well, that's a lot going on there, Questions come to mind, right, in terms of, do we have pensions? Are we married? What does the rest of the picture look like? Are we wanting to get involved with Social Security right away? Maybe we have some health concerns that is pushing to an early retirement. All these thoughts run through my mind. And that's why I think it's so tough to have the coffee shop talk, right, of, well, this is the right investment for you, Kelly, because without looking at that entire picture for you, your husband, your family, well, as a fiduciary, I can't give a really good recommendation. And I think that would be really poor of us today to go ahead and give a recommendation for what is the best thing for a 61-year-old, because every situation's unique. And I think that that's probably the nugget that I would want everyone to take away, is that your situation is unique. You need to make sure your plan is not some sort of cookie cutter plan. We see this, sadly, too many times where it's this top-down model where it's really everyone has the same type of account or the same type of investments in those accounts. And so I think that's important for everyone to understand. And there is no crystal ball, there's no silver bullet when it comes to really what's that right and perfect scenario, because everyone has a unique situation.
William asks, I own several rental properties that I'm planning to use for retirement income. What should I do for a backup plan in case I decide not to be a landlord anymore?
Well, William, I will tell you this. Real estate has always intrigued me. My wife and I have a little bit of that as our portfolio. But Kelly, the older that I get, the more people that I help that have real estate as a part of their picture, they say, listen, I just don't want to mess with that in retirement. You know, it's one thing when I was in my 30s or 40s or 50s. Now if I'm in my 70s or 80s, who's going to manage that for me, and so on and so forth. It can be a great income cash flow. That is no question. But now the question becomes, if we get rid of that, Bill, if you take that out of your portfolio, now the question becomes, where are you going to generate that income again? So, hey, you could use something like, a dividend portfolio that's kicking out some distribution. You could look at even something like an annuity that could give you a guaranteed cash flow. I think, Kelly, the takeaway here is that the question becomes, do I want to manage this? And if not, what do I need to do? And there's a lot that goes on there as well. Taxes is yet another topic of that conversation. Do I need to 1031 that value into another piece of property or different type of investment, like special opportunity zone REIT? I mean, that's a mouthful, but what I want folks to know is this. Taxes, it's a huge deal when it comes to any investment that you have. I just referenced it to real estate. And so what I would tell you is that getting your arms wrapped around what are some ways that you can handle that, it's critically important. You know, most financial advisors, from my perspective, focus on investing a little bit of dollars. It's focused on only performance, maybe some fee conversation. And by the way, that's all important. But I think that one of the most missed components of any investment plan is taxes. And so we would love to get your very own unique tax reduction report in your hands. And it's pretty simple. Kelly, all they have to do is pick up the phone and give us a call.
Zach, there is so much value there, and you could have your very own tax reduction report. So here's your chance to get your hands on that tax reduction report from Rooted Wealth Advisors. Call 855-955-6868 to get yours today. Remember, there is no cost or obligation, so don't wait. Call 855-955-6868. And of course, lots of insights today. We thank you for joining us. If you want to learn ways to generate lifetime income, potentially reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, reach out now. Zach and the team are ready to help you start building a retirement plan designed to help you flourish in retirement. For Zach and the team at Rooted Wealth Advisors, I'm Kelly Dame. We look forward to seeing you next time on Rooted in Retirement.